Okay. So welcome everyone to our first podcast ever. My name is Paolo and I'm joined with
Natan Gomez.
Natan and me will be co-hosting this podcast where we aim to just spark up discussions about religion, spirituality, and just social aspects of our generation,
Yeah.
just to bring awareness and to kind of acknowledge the fact that we can have opposing views and still, in a sense, respect one another and still love and appreciate one another.
Right, right. And I also think that Paolo and we both really love this just topic of religion, spirituality, and we're both on the way to find the truth, to, yeah. And we both believe that through our discussions, through multiple perspectives, we can get closer to that goal of
Yes.
finding the truth.
Yes, exactly. And I think like one of the main differences between Nathan and me is I would say I'm more of a experimental. So I seek truth more in my own experiences, and Nathan would be more like a literature type, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit more. I get maybe traditional, a little bit more a careful approach,
Yeah.
more of a philosophical rather than just diving into.
Yeah. I mean, I don't just dive into things as well, but yeah. But so yeah. So this podcast, we're just gonna, I guess, give a brief introduction of ourselves, of just who we are, where we come from, what we study, all those things. So you
Yeah.
just go first.
All right, yeah, I can start. Natan Gomez is my name. I was born in Germany. When I was 3 years old, my parents. So my father's Brazilian, my mother's German. So I already grew up in a multicultural family. My parents both come from non-believing homes and found to their faith during their lives. They didn't want to baptize us as children. They raised us in the philosophy that we can and we will choose our faith ourselves. We weren't baptized as kids. And when I was 3 years old, my parents, or we as a family, moved to Brazil. My parents wanted to work as missionaries there. They worked in an orphanage for street children, and it was a very, very protected environment for me, very safe. And when I was 5 years old, I made a conscious decision that I want to follow Jesus, that I want to believe in this, what my parents believe in. So they led by example, not by forcing us to believe in it. And in 2005, when I was 8 years old, we moved back to Germany. That was when, I don't know, my biggest time of trial, I think, started. So I went through a lot of opposition also against my faith. Was the first time that I really met people who just don't believe in anything and even find it weird to believe in something supernatural. Was a very challenging time, but through it all, I somehow, for some reason, kept my faith. And so after high school, I decided to visit a Bible school and just dive in a little bit deeper and just see what exactly is it that I believe in, because so far I have never read through the entire Bible, and since I consider the Bible the basis for my faith, so I wanted to see what exactly it is that it says there. And during that Bible school, I learned a lot. I discovered that I have a huge passion for discussions, for reading the Bible, studying the Bible, and other religions or spiritual texts as well. And this is what I believe would really prepared me and made me able to be in this situation where I'm at right now, and also to meet Paolo and many other people that I'm constantly in touch with. So I once in a week meet with Mormons and discuss with them. I meet many Muslim friends in school, and I'm very open. I listen a lot and try to learn a lot, and just learn and study what the truth is.
Yeah. So I guess for me, I was born in Mexico. So it's a very Catholic country. So my family, I would say, would be more like what I would describe more as a fake Catholic. They would believe in God and stuff, but they would never really go to church or anything like that. So they never really, I guess, showed their faith. I went to bilingual school when I was little, so there was really nothing religious about it in that sense. In 2005, I moved to Spain for around 3 months. I lived, and when I came back to Mexico, I went to a Catholic school. So once I went there, I did my first communion. We prayed a lot there, and yeah, it was just a very like spiritually awakening time for me. Uh, but then after that stage, I moved to back to Spain, where I kind of just completely lost touch with like any type of like religious beliefs or anything like that. I mean, I would always question things myself, just observe the world in my own eyes and just try to understand everything from my own perspective. So, but I never necessarily believed that there was nothing. I believe in the flow of the universe. I believe in the so-called like invisible laws that we just can't observe as human beings that might be too complex for us to understand in a like material like human mind matter as well. So then I lived in the U.S. for around 5.5 years. Wasn't really in touch with religion or anything like that at that moment. I think that was a stage in my life where I really just kind of pushed all of that aside. I was just too concentrated in school and just other things where I just kind of lost contact with like that part of myself that has always been there, but just kind of slept off for a little bit. Then I moved to Sweden. I started having a lot of like I guess existential thoughts around the age of 20 about death and just a lot of things. And this happened for around 6 months. Then and life kept going on, and then somehow I just got in touch with my spirituality again. It was just like an awakening of, uh, I guess, the subconscious ideologies that were true to myself, to my being, that I always kind of believed about, but I never really had the courage to follow, in a sense. Because any type of spiritual beliefs or anything like that, I believe it really requires a lot of courage for you to stand your grounds and believe to what it is truth for your heart. So it was just a very that was like a year and a half ago. So that's when I started meditating as well. I started reading about Buddhism, practicing meditation, yoga, just getting more in touch with myself. And I think from that moment on, my life has really changed for the better. I've been able to understand people more, understand myself more, and just be more open to the ideas and beliefs of others. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're human beings, and as human beings, we might not necessarily be able to comprehend everything. So it's important to just love each other and respect each other in that sense. So, yeah, that's kind of like my story up until now. But I guess I have a live mission statement. I don't know if you have one, but like I have my personal like mission statement, which is to inspire others to use my resources, experience, and love to inspire others to live a more forgiving, love-fulfilled life. So that's kind of my motto. So if I could describe myself in like one sentence, that would be it. So through these talks, through our experiences, through everything that we communicate, we just really want you guys to just get a broader understanding, to question things, to ask for yourself, and to understand that, the universe, everything, there's a flow to things, and you're loved, you're appreciated. So that's a message that I want to convey at least.
Right. No, I don't. I don't have a good formulated mission statement as it is, but I mean, would go along similar lines. Like, I mean, for me, the my goal is to honor God, is to also be a vessel for His Word, because I believe He is the source of all truth, all knowledge, all love. And that's why while we talk, I want to listen to whatever God tells me and try to share this and try to put it in human words. I mean, that's my goal. I mean, I want to show that God is love, that God loves every one of us, that His Son, Jesus Christ, died on the cross for our sins, and that through this sacrifice that Jesus brought, there is forgiveness for our sins, for everything we did wrong in our lives. And this forgiveness is not something limited to a certain church. I myself am not a Catholic or Protestant or anything. I believe in the Bible. I don't really want to adjust to or bind myself to any certain type of church. I believe what it says in the Bible is true, and in the Bible it says there's forgiveness for everyone, and everyone who comes to Jesus and believes in Him.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about that is it's kind of like a discussion that we always have, just the pure fact of forgiveness, and that's something that I'm very also very kind of like open about, or I would push people to understand that no matter what happens in life, like the universe is forgiven. That's just the way nature is. Nature is loving. Nature just wants to create, and it wants the best for you. But I think what's important to also, like, in a sense, and that's something that for me is very important, is that it doesn't matter how much, God, the universe, nature forgives you. The step of liberation or anything for you to actually acquire or grow as a person spiritually is for you to also be able to forgive yourself. So I think that's also very important, is to, in a sense, understand that we all make mistakes. Like, no matter who you are, no matter how perfect you are, we all make mistakes in life. So it's important to be able to forgive yourself, because I think if you allow yourself to forgive yourself for the pains that you caused to others, or the pain that others have caused to you, then you can have more open and loving relationships with life, I guess. So I find that just very interesting, and that's something that we always kind of seem to discuss.
Yeah. This part with the forgiving oneself, I absolutely see also a very important part, like forgiving oneself, like to really say, okay, the Bible doesn't really have this sense of I have to forgive myself. It is more a sense of I can let go of this now, I guess. And I mean, it results in the same thing.
Exactly.
It's probably
it's just like a different interpretation, and that's
a different wording of it.
Exactly.
And I mean, this is probably what our discussions end up being
Mostly
of the
about,
time, to just kind of clarify or just elaborate. Like, this is how we say it, and then you say something, and it's like, oh wait, like actually we're talking about the same thing, but
because language evolves language evolves, so our translation of what the language was 2,000 years ago, it's kind of a little bit different of what it is now. So it's always interesting just to be able to talk it out and be like, oh hey, we're talking about the same thing, just wording it a little bit different.
And I mean, so it's very interesting how many similarities it is, and that is what fascinated me the most, just to discuss with Paolo. And then it's like, really, we're talking mostly about the same thing, but then there are usually small twists, small details where we're like, doesn't really fit. Like, they're I mean, and that is our pursuit for truth. We're trying to find out what are the differences, and do they work together, or do we need to compromise? Do we need to or which one of them?
It's kind of like out of two conflicting views, one might understand, one might seek truth. So it's always all perspective wise. We, as human beings, we always want to kind of make our perspective seem as the like the absolute one, and that's kind of like a funny thing about gurus. And if any of you guys have ever listened to Alan Watts, I would recommend listening to him. But he talks about this, and he talks about the fact that a lot of gurus, in a sense, they want to be one with everything, yet they compete against other gurus. So, well, that guru might be wrong, but that completely takes away the fact of it because, it's all in a sense, I wouldn't say necessarily open to discussion, but it can be interpreted in different senses because we all experience life differently. We learn language differently, so the way that we express ourselves is very interdependent upon our own personal views, and but it's always very interesting. And the most important part is as well that we can respect each other's views, and that doesn't stop us from being friends or conveying in any sense. I think that's the crucial part that I want to get to.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay to have opposing views. But as long as you respect each other, as long as you just have the humility to say, hey, maybe the other one knows something I don't know or has experienced something that it's connected to a lot of humility.
Yeah.
And it's not something.
I think there was a quote. I don't remember who said it exactly, but it goes something like, every man that I meet is superior to me in that I learn from him. So that's something very crucial, is that this is something that I'm very opinionated about, and I wouldn't say opinionated, but very I strongly believe about, is that each and one of us is unique in our sense, and we all have capabilities and things which we can bring to the table that other humans wouldn't necessarily be able to. So it's important to, in a sense, be open to learn from others, because it is through others that we also learned. So it's this very it's like a dual dynamic. We can't understand our truth if it wasn't because of others, and others wouldn't be able to understand others if it wasn't because of us. Yeah. We need each other to understand. That's essentially what I'm getting at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, someone who influenced me very much, or at least kind of recently, it's been Jordan Peterson. And he said, I read his book, 12 Rules for Life. It was a very, very eye-opening, very interesting book to read as well. I would very recommend to read him as well, even though he's a non-Christian, or at least he doesn't take a public statement about his faith and belief. But I highly respect this man and his thoughts. And in his book, he has an entire chapter where he talks about when you talk to someone, how does he say it? Think that the other one might know something you don't know. That's literally the name of the chapter.
I think that's I think a crucial thing to do as human beings is to just sometimes allow our mind to just shut up. Because I think one of the greatest talents that a man can have is the capability to listen. And listening has very different levels. You can be empathetic listening or just listening to respond. And I think especially in our day and age, especially with our generation, a lot of us just listen to reply. So we're completely missing the point. And I believe that's one of the main reasons why a lot of conflicts and not necessarily, true relationships can form, is because we're trying to listen to respond. So if you see my wallpaper there, I have one of the rules from a book that is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It says, seek first to understand and then to be understood. Because you have to know where a person is coming from their own perspective, without your prejudices or your own ideologies, before trying to be understood as well. Because if you're trying yourself to just get your point across without listening to the point of others, it's like screaming to a wall. It's not gonna work. No. It's so it's crucial for that, I think.
Cool. Very nice. Yeah, and the difficult thing oftentimes with opinions is that, well, we have experienced something that gives us a reason to believe in this opinion, and we made experiences, we probably, depending what things it is, we might even have built like made crucial decisions on those opinions. And if we realize, wait, there are arguments that could go against it or could just shatter it, it's not something easy to let go of it at all.
It's not. And that comes, like, I think that all comes down to what it's called, like, the ego. And I think for me, the ego is a very fragile part of us. And because the way the mind operates, at least in like a psychological level, you have the right side of the mind, then you have the left side. So you have the narrative side and then the experimental side. And sometimes the narrative side just doesn't want to get hurt, and it wants to create stories out of it. So instead of admitting that it might have been wrong about something, it just creates a story of just something to make it feel better. So it's always important to be real with yourself. And I read this in a book called, like, it's like the definition of real, or how you can view the world real, which would be to recognize, experience, accept, and let go. And this is something that I've experienced personally, at least in the past 2 weeks, just all these conflicting views that I had in my mind that were really just created by me. I created those views, and I cling to them so dearly, and it made me suffer. Once I realized that, oh, hey, this is not how this person viewed me. This was nothing to do with my mom. This is not how my mom views me. It shattered me, and I just wanted to cry and break down, but my ego was still fighting it because it didn't want to get hurt. So then I just surrendered. I surrendered to it, and I said, okay, I'm going to accept these emotions. I'm going to accept the fact that I was wrong. And then from there, you grow. Because you have to be wrong in life sometimes. Yeah. You have to be able to weaken your character and kind of like demolish your old views for you to actually grow and become more knowledgeable and wise. That's how we learn. Yeah. We don't learn by being stationary. We grow by making mistakes and learning from those mistakes.
And I mean, this is what one of my favorite stories in the Bible is actually about. It's the story of Job. And he was so the Bible tells, a truly righteous man. He did everything right. Everything was perfect. Everyone respected him as well. He was a just person. And then one day, God allows Satan to take everything from him. And so there's like all of these tragedies that happen to him. All of his riches get taken away. His sons and daughters all die at once, and he gets sick, and like everyone in his surrounding just tries to get rid of him, and it's like, like his wife says, just curse God and die, literally. And so so this is the conflict that he has, that he believes God is just, but then how can God make someone who is just suffer? And I mean, this is the question many of us still have today, and the book literally actually doesn't really answer this question. It rather says or shows, so during the course of the book, there are these friends who come as well, and they have the same view, because they say, well, God is just and Job is suffering, hence Job must have done something wrong, so they blame him. They point their fingers on him and say, hey, you did something wrong. But Job says, hey, no, wait, I did nothing wrong, but I'm suffering, hence God must be unjust. So this is his conclusion, but that's also not really the right conclusion. So in the end, God shows up, and he himself basically talks. He talks to Job and tells him, basically, God is the creator of the universe, and many things we just have to accept. Things happen in life. Yep. We go through difficult times. It doesn't mean that God is unjust. It doesn't have anything to do with our own righteousness. If we go through something difficult, it also has nothing to do with God's righteousness. Yeah. Instead, then in the end, there's this amazing verse. I just love it so much. It's Job saying, so far my ears have heard of you, so of God, but now my eyes have seen. And I just find this so beautiful. It's like through our difficult times in life, when everything, all of our views, all of our things that we have in our lives, when they get shaken up, we grow. We get to know God better through that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I definitely feel very strongly about that. And I think the important thing to realize about just the duality of life really is that out of every good, there's also a bad. Out of every bad, there's a good. So one cannot exist without the other. So you cannot grow just by being absolute good. You also need that bad for you to be able to realize also the good within yourself. And it's how are you supposed to show compassion if you haven't been in a hard time where nobody has shown compassion to you? These are things that we learn, and we learn through our experiences and what the universe shows to us. But for us to be able to realize those things, in a sense, what we would consider bad things to happen have to happen. But I think it's actually a beautiful journey, really. Like the journey of life, it's a story. It's kind of like a story that we write for ourselves. We go through these bad times, but then we discover the like essential parts of us, our fundamental beliefs, and that's how we grow. So I think they're essential. It's essential for you to have bad. So next time something bad happens to you, don't be reactive. Just be proactive. Instead of saying why is this happening to me, say what can I learn from this? What is the universe trying to tell me? What can I do better? How can I grow? How can I learn from this? So there's always two ways to react to a situation. And from my personal experience, I'd say accepting the emotions, accepting the feelings, and accepting the situation is the most important part. But then being able to grow from it, being able to learn what went wrong or what caused it, is also fundamental. Because then you're just going to be a victim. And you're not a victim. Because the universe is good. If you want abundance, you can have abundance. Everything is yours if you believe that you can have it. So it's very interesting. We like it's the whole point. We have like very similar views. So
yeah.
but yeah, I guess we can talk a little bit more about like what I guess more of the podcast will be like. So we can also ask for recommendations. So if anyone wants us to talk about a certain topic or discover something, like we would also appreciate that. Uh, Something else that we were thinking about doing is maybe having host, or a guest, I would say. So if someone would like to join and let their voice be heard, you're more than welcome to join. This is a non-judgment environment. If you want to speak your truth, speak it out. We don't judge. So just want to kind of let that out, because we want to really just kind of, in a sense, form a community with our friends and just be able to allow them to express their truths as well.
Right.
Because that's something that I realized a lot in Sweden is like, I don't know, there seems to be a lack of what I would call individuality, a strong fear of expressing your voice. So, Sweden is a lovely country. People are very open minded. And just a discussion I was having with a friend yesterday, actually. She said, well, I don't think Swedish people are very open minded. And I was like, I think they're quite open minded, like very open minded, because you can be very open minded about topics like, I see this color blue, you see this color green. Oh, it could be either one. That's kind of open minded. But you still have to have some sense of integrity and individuality to be able to express that open mindedness. And I think that's something that Swedish culture lacks a lot, is that ability to form communities and be able to express more openly.
Yeah. But then again, that's again a thing of terms. I wouldn't call this a lack of individuality if someone can't form a group. I would say that's a lack of community.
Yeah, no. I mean, by individuality, I don't mean forming a group.
Yeah.
I mean expressing their opinions without being afraid of being molded. Because I don't know, something that I've realized a lot, at least here in campus or just in college and just with our generation, really, and same thing with the U.S., for example, is this kind of pursuit of seeking validation and recognition from others through social media, and that is something that has been, I think, very detrimental for our mental health, because no matter what, you want to be able to express yourself. So if you are constantly living to satisfy others, you're not going to be able to, in a sense, be happy with yourself. So that's where I think that's where I mean by individuality more than anything. Is the ability to say, okay, this is what I believe to be true. This is my word, and I'm able to express it. I'm not too afraid of being judged or whatnot.
But actually, I think this is what social media and what people are doing nowadays a lot. Like through social media, through all of this virtual walls that we build up, we have so much anonymity that people actually, I mean, if you read on Facebook, whatever, you can read tons of, like, whenever you get into a discussion with someone or some public post, you get like so many opinions, so many people getting angry at each other, like look at YouTube comments or whatever. I think people are expressing themselves, but it's not in a healthy way.
And it's easier, I mean, yeah, it's not in a healthy way. And more than anything, it's easier to express yourself behind the computer than in real life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the crucial part.
Exactly. And that is what I would say, it's actually a lack of community.
Yes.
Because a community consists of strong individuals. And I think that is, then again, where we get together.
Yeah.
It's like, to form a good community, you have to have strong members. You have to have strong individuals. And I mean, really, this is something very important to learn to accept yourself, to learn that you are someone loved by God, someone created by God, who has, I mean, we're all sons of God. We're all created with a purpose. We're not just randomly here. And I think this is one of the great problems of our time, that atheism is such a strong thing, because really atheism, what it ultimately says, everything is random, everything created somehow, like randomness, and you can't build a value system on random. I mean, I can throw dice, but it will not produce physical laws.
No. And the interesting part about atheism is that it's a belief system. Like, it's just another belief system, and it's kind of like, I find that what's interesting is like the two extremes, right? Of super belief and non-belief. But I think through both of them, you kind of need those extremes to be able to merge them together as well. Like, I think one thing arises out of the necessity of another. Yeah. So I think, and this is where, like, I think science and religion really go hand in hand, because it is, like, the scientists are always trying to prove the religious man wrong. So through that, trying to perceive the religious man wrong, they discovered new things, and we're able to create new technologies and kind of like make our lives easier. But we never get really to the point, because we're still not acknowledging that part of us as well. So you have to come to a point where we have to be able to merge them and be more open about it, not just be like, it's either white or black, because it's not either white or black. It's every single color in between. So, but yeah, it's just kind of very interesting, I think. And I mean, where it comes to social media, at least in like my perspective, it's this kind of like instant gratification of, if you feel bad about it or if you feel sad, you just portray like, an image. If I'm happy, you get those likes. But I don't know, at least, in Sweden, there's a high rate of depression. So people don't necessarily seem depressed in social media, yet, when you talk to them or things like that, they might be depressed, but you never know. So it comes down to what type of communications are we actually having. Because we have nowadays the capability of expressing our words, expressing our opinions, and just sharing ideas with everyone in the world, with absolutely everyone. We can communicate with anyone. But what type of communications are we having? Are we having genuine conversations that, spark up actual, like, interesting conversations, deep conversations? Or are we just conversating just to get gratification and satisfaction? And that's where the difference comes from. There's different levels of communication as well. And, through text messages, through pictures, through all these things, you can never capture the whole essence, because pictures don't have emotions. You can edit the picture and you can try to portray an emotion, but you will never really know what that person is going through unless you actually talk to them. So it's important to be able to create and have friends that you can be open to, that you can say, hey, you know what, I feel this way, I'm sad, and be there to support each other, because we all go through challenging moments in life. So why do we ignore them in a sense and not allow others to, share them and just respect them, be there for them? Because if we do that to others, then others will do that to us when we're in bad times too. So it's important to create those good communities, those good friendships, and allow ourselves to be human. I think that's the most important thing, is allow yourself to be human.
Yeah. And I mean, I find it very nice how you said it. Like, whatever we do to others is what we can expect them doing to us as well. I mean, there's this famous quote, don't do unto others what you don't want them to do unto you. But I mean, that's just a double negation what actually a Bible verse is. And the Bible verse literally is, do unto others what you want them to do unto you. And I mean, both essentially say the same thing, but the
one is more proactive.
Exactly. Yes. One says do something, the other says don't do something.
Yeah.
And what did I want to say? Yeah, exactly. If it's very important to listen to one another again, like, because really a good community, like, if you just keep talking, you will not know how to bond with the other. You will not know what the other one thinks. You will not know if maybe what you're saying is completely destroying the world of the other, or maybe the other one has a destroyed world right now. So if you have friends around, really listen to them. Pay attention to what state in life they're in, because I mean, I think especially nowadays, with just media and internet and everything just getting so much more entangled into our lives. I mean, I don't know if I have, like, I probably can count on two hands how many of my friends don't have Snapchat or Instagram. It's like so much of this instant quick gratification. I mean, it's not that we don't want to stay here and be like, hey, Instagram is bad, Snapchat
no, of course
bad,
not.
Get rid of it. It's a good opportunity.
But it's also how you use the technology.
Exactly.
And I think for us, we were like guinea pigs, like we grew up with that technology. I mean, I remember Snapchat coming on when I was in sophomore year of high school or something like that, which is 10th grade. And we just didn't know how to use the technology. We never understood the type of social implications that it could have. And I think now that these technologies have evolved a little bit further, we're kind of able to see the impact that they're having upon us, the impact that they're having upon children. And I don't know, something that I find interesting at least is when I walk to the gym, for example, and I see a bus, everyone is in the bus just in their phone, like just looking at their phone. And, I find it like it's good to communicate, but it's also good to have human contact, like one-to-one contact, because that's what we want. We seek actual contact. We seek affection, true affection, not affection that you get through a phone, because the phone can hug you. The phone can, you can't necessarily believe the phone that much, because it's how a person speaks to you. It's all about the tone, how they look at you, the empathy that they show towards you. Yeah. And it's very difficult to show those type of emotions through a mobile device. So go out there, like express yourself, create those loving relationship with others. I think that's the most fundamental thing that we need to start doing again. These things are important and they can help us a lot, social media, but let's use it more wisely. Yeah. And let's be more conscious on how it affects us, because if something is affecting you negatively, then you also need to cut it off for a little bit, to be able to learn how to integrate it.
And I mean, I think like the point when we were born or when we grew up, that was kind of like just the last few years where we still grew up kind of without smartphones. Yeah. I mean, and that puts us too a little bit in a special condition as well, because I mean, we didn't grow up in the 2000s. Like we were like, we kind of just stumbled into it. Like, or at least for me, I was 8 years when I moved back to Europe, and it was kind of like, okay, Some friends of mine already have phones. Some have internet at home. For me, that was like, oh wow, I have a Windows XP that I'm allowed to play once a week.
I think I had internet. Like it's the same because I was born in Mexico, so our technologies weren't necessarily as caught up, or they were just kind of very expensive. So I think I also there was a computer in my cousin's house, and like remember we would just use it to play games and stuff, but no idea of the internet, none of that. And I think I got Facebook in 2009. So before I moved to the US, that's when I joined Facebook. That's when I started to use the internet more. But when I was growing up, when I was little, I would always play with my cousins just in the field. We would play football or hide and seek, just all of these games, which people still play nowadays. But the majority of children that I see, at least, they have smartphones. Yeah. And for me, that's kind of like insane because you're giving a kid a phone where he can look anything on the internet, and the internet is a
messy place.
It's a messy place. It's not a super nice place. Let's just say that. So it's important as well as a parent to, be able to do your parenting right. Yeah. Don't just give the phone to the child and be like, shut up, just look at it, because the child will imitate the same behaviors that we have. That's what children do. So, it's important to teach them valuable lessons.
And I think this is, again, a very, very nice point that you're talking on here. It's the living by example. Like, especially our children, but not only our children, also our entire surrounding will be influenced by however we act, whatever we say. And so this is also a very important thing to just be aware of that you, in a part, form your surrounding. Of course, you're also shaped and formed by your surrounding, but you are not powerless.
No, you always have an impact. Yeah. And that's also another quote that I have there. It's like, be a light, not a judge. Be a model, not a critic. Be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. So it's the same aspect of, I think a lot of us lack a sense of purpose. And a lot of our, I believe that a lot of the mental illnesses with depression and things is, in a sense, a part of you trying to gain purpose, but not knowing where you can have an impact. And I think what is important and what has helped me, because I've dealt with depression as well, is to realize that impact is not something that you need to find in some grandiose thing. You don't have to have impact in the huge things in life. It's in the little things of life that you can have impact. How you smile to someone, the way you speak to someone. That's where you can have impact. How you respect others. That's important thing. And that's actually the things that people will realize. Because your character, the way you speak, and the way you portray yourself has a bigger impact than you might ever think. So you always have a choice. You always have power to be able to help others and be there for others, whether they're trying to cause you harm or causing harm to themselves. You always have that power. Impact is not something that you have to seek in like a grandiose scheme. Yeah. It's everywhere. You can have impact everywhere. So it's I find it just super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think we'll wrap this one up soon. Just we'll try to have one of these like once a week, maybe later on twice a week, who knows. But if you want us to talk about something else, just kind of leave a comment or just let us know if you know us personally, and if you would like to join as well, don't hesitate to ask, to speak. We want to hear different opinions because it's important to hear different people as well. So I don't know if you want to add anything else.
And any questions, anytime, just leave a comment, send it in. We'll try to see. Also just about the past talk. Like if you have a question, you want us to clarify something, or
just any thoughts about it too.
Yeah, exactly. It would be super interesting just to have some online discussions.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for listening today, and see you come again.
See you. Bye-bye.